Cheers and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is helping a podcaster to be brilliant, amazing for sure. No other than Miss Virginia Elder.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here today.
Welcome to Book 101, Miss Virginia. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I think you did a great job. You have my business website there on the screen. We do provide podcast editing and management services. We are the leading provider of podcast audio and video production here in the United States for financial service professionals. And then with that, I have my own show. It's called Podcasting for Financial Professionals. And I love to help reduce the barriers around getting on video, getting behind the microphone, and sharing content that will really help the people that you're really trying to reach.
Miss Virginia Elder, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world about podcasting itself. So let's talk about using podcasting to attract clients, not just create content. What is the biggest misconception about podcasting when it comes to attracting clients?
Yeah. I think the biggest missing ingredient that I see in podcasts that where the host is the owner of a business, it can be a product based or a service based business, and they're producing a show or any content, is that a lot of times it's great educational content, but it's really missing the call to action, which is abbreviated as a CTA. And all that is, people complicate this, but all it is you sharing how the listener or the viewer can take the next step with you. So, whether that's to download a free PDF or to sign up for an email course or a newsletter, but if they are tuning in week after week, they like you and they're interested in more, and they might not even know how to get further engaged with you. So make sure that there's a call to action.
Indeed, call to action. So, how should business owners shift their mindset from creating a content to attracting clients with their podcasts?
Yeah. So the entire reason many people start a podcast is this content creation idea, right? And for most of my clients being financial professionals, and this applies to medical and law and most businesses, you're creating content that is helping them solve a problem. It's answering a big question, it's guiding them through their issues and why they would come to you in the first place. Like for me, people would come to me for podcast production because they don't want to learn how to edit. They don't want to spend the time behind the screen trying to figure out how to, put together the pieces of their show and make it look and sound professionally done. So, a lot of my content, for example, is about what you should say in your show, how to sound and look natural on camera, how to infuse that call to action in your podcast, different other pieces that you can implement in the business, like email subscriber lists and lead magnets and things like that to draw people in. So when you are attracting clients, maybe let's just say your course, for example, there's a lot of course creators or authors out there, like your book, right? Maybe those bigger pieces of content, I mean, that is content, right? Your course, your book, that solves a big issue and produces a full transformation, right? Your podcast episodes, for example, are going to solve many issues. So when you create in the form of helping and guiding and answering a question that your ideal client has, that's how you're attracting them in.
What are the key differences between a podcast meant for brand awareness versus one designed to generate leads?
Yeah. So brand awareness is going to highlight where you are, how, what you're doing, what events you're going to, the way that you help people, the benefits of your services, and really be informational. Whereas a client attracting show is going to um, inform and guide them through those burning questions that they're going to Google. And instead of them Googling it, they're going to listen to your show to get those answers. And then you're going to have that next step, that call to action, where it's low barrier, probably zero barrier to entry, where it's just a free item that they can get a hold of. And that way you are pulling them into what I call your business ecosystem. And through email, typically, is how then you will start to contact them regularly and guide them into your business. So, awareness is just you're creating literally awareness that you exist, how you do what you do, where you're doing it. Maybe you're inviting them to events, but you're not really being clear about, hey, here's my service, here's how I help you, join here. And that is what you are doing in a business generating podcast. You're actually converting those listeners.
Let's talk about the content and messaging. So, what types of podcast episodes tend to convert listeners into clients most effectively?
Hmm. So the listeners in 2025, these are some newer stats drawn from surveys, and they're really looking for a variety of episode styles. So you want a consistent rotation of solo episodes that position you as the expert, where you're teaching, talking on a specific question or topic, and you are guiding and coaching specifically in that episode as a solo speaker. And then, the thing that is still working is guesting. So I like to think of this as inner podcast networking. You're meeting guests, you're having them on your show. I hope that you are also guesting on other shows and sharing your expertise. And that creates this, um, spider web or ripple effect or butterfly effect, as some people call it, where as you connect with more people and you're on their shows and you have other people on your shows, the power in that of creating that podcast network really spreads the word about your show. And anytime you're speaking on your topic, whether it's on your show or on someone else's show, you're attracting people that like the way that you said what you said, or appreciate the way that you explained something. Or maybe they just like your voice or your look, or they think that, hey, one day I'm going to need those services in my business. I'll just go ahead and follow now so that when I'm ready, I already have my provider picked out. So you always want to be rotating your style of content, create um, like a pattern of your episodes between solos, guest interviews. And then you can even, be creative. You can have a game segment or a variety of different things depending on what your business is and who you're speaking to. But people are really looking for content that they can engage with. And the more you create, then you can look at your stats and you can see which style of episodes your specific audience is listening more to. And you can lean into that specific style.
Miss Virginia, should every podcast episode have a direct call to action, or is there a better approach?
I do recommend that every episode have a call to action. And this is speaking specifically to business owners or those who are podcasting for a business, right? So maybe you are the marketing manager, and so you're not the owner, but you are the host of the podcast for that business. If the podcast's purpose is to attract clients or to build an email list or to sell books, you want there to be a call to action in every single episode. And then to piggyback on top of that, I recommend that you have the same call to action, like literally the same link, the same language, the same phrasing to the same call to action at least 8 episodes in a row before you change to something else. Listeners or viewers need to hear that consistency over and over and over before they decide to take action. So you can't just say it one time and then change it to something else and move on. You need that repetitiveness is important in the content you create.
Yes, consistency, people, consistency. So, how do you structure podcast content so if it naturally leads listeners to want to work with you?
Yeah. Well, of course, people connect with stories more often than just, here's how you solve your problem. Do this, do that, give them a checklist, right? So, at any point, if you can use a client story, you don't have to share their name or their, financial figures or anything very specific, but to use their situation and the transformation they went through as a story about your services or about how you helped, that is going to connect with people more than, like I said, just teaching and telling. So, for example, there is several past clients, but one specifically that comes to mind that he knew he wanted to start a podcast. He knew that he was busy in his practice and that he didn't want to produce it. And so he met me at a conference. We started working together. And his expectation was I'm going to do a podcast every single week for my business for 3 years. After that, I will evaluate. He had this really wonderful long term perspective on, you know, in 3 years, I think it should have converted some clients. That's a really long time. Well, with our work together, we structured his intro, we structured his episodes to where sometimes he was doing solo episodes, sometimes he was doing guest interviews, sometimes his office manager would join him and they would talk about a client situation that they had worked through. So, story form. And within the first year, he was getting calls of listeners wanting to become clients because of the way that we structured that episode. So, use stories whenever you can. True stories, okay? Don't make them up. we need
True
we need some
stories.
truth to it.
Yes.
But story is something people can see themselves and identify with that person in their story even though I didn't tell you his name, right? someone out there could be that financial professional who's wanting to start a show. They don't have time for it. They definitely don't want to learn how to edit video and figure out where to post it and do all of that because they are busy serving clients and creating financial plans for people. So, in that, some financial professional out there can can say, "Oh, that's me." That's completely the challenge that I face. And they would know immediately, like, okay, I can start with a 3-year time frame in my mind. I may start getting clients before that. I likely will if I work with Virginia, right? So those are things that are like in that story that people are thinking, just simply because of the way it's framed.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Virginia, and looking forward for more success for sure. And what would be your
Absolutely.
piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you, a
Oh,
podcast coach?
yes. So there are many certifications and programs out there to be a podcast manager, to be a podcast growth coach. I do recommend investing in yourself and learning as much as you can about whatever you're interested in. Um, for any business owners out there, considering this is a book podcast, and if you have hesitation around getting behind the mic or getting on video, I want to recommend this book. It's called The Visual Sale. It's by Marcus Sheridan and Tyler Lassard. I went and dug in my bookshelves and pulled this out. And the reason I want to recommend it is because it not only tells you why video is so compelling to your potential clients, but it also gives you specific videos to create for your website, for your business, for your email signature, even that will help attract those clients. So it's like, all the stats, all of the figures that you would need if you weren't sure about video, but it also tells you how and what videos to create. So it's very, very actionable. And I'm not finished creating all of those videos for my own business yet. So I very much so recommend that book.
Thank you for that recommended book as well as your advice, Miss Virginia. And let's talk about the promotion and growth. What is the most underrated way to promote a podcast to attract clients?
Underrated. I think it's underrated and also the most powerful, but it's word of mouth. I
Yes.
think most hosts are hesitant to talk about their own show or to make sure that people know about their own podcast, or you could say YouTube channel or blog or just anything that you're creating consistently. We're proud of it, but at the same time, we don't talk about it very much. So it's almost like you're ashamed of it. And so that's a very interesting thought there to unpack. Um, so make sure that the people that you know that you're interacting with know about your show, and don't be afraid to ask them, like, hey, do you know anyone who would benefit from listening to this show? For example, if I were asking a friend, maybe another mom in my neighborhood, hey, do you know any financial professionals that I could reach out to or that you would recommend my show for? Right? Because then those financial professionals are my ideal client. And I don't know them, but maybe she knows them. And so if we just make sure that not only do people know about our show, but that they are thinking about who should listen for us. And that's another kind of piece of that networking where you're spreading the word organically about your show and your services. And there's just nothing to replace that.
Interesting idea, Miss Virginia. And how can repurposing podcast content help bring in more clients?
Mm, hmm So, especially these days with social media, things have changed in the business space. It used to be if someone saw your listing in the phone book, you were a legitimate business. Or if someone told someone about you, you were a legitimate business. They would just dial your phone number and you would have a new client. Things are different now. When someone hears about you or even see like this, like sees you on a podcast, they're not going to just immediately sign up. They are going to Google you. They're going to double check that you have a website, find you on social media, whatever platform they, you know, prefer, right? So maybe it's Instagram. And it's almost like if they can't find you on social media, you're not a legitimate business. And now you and I know that that might not be true. You may have a booming business and you may not like social media. So you might not be on it on purpose.
True.
But to those clients, sometimes these days, that is a measure of legitimacy. So when you're repurposing content, you're taking clips from your videos, you are taking a quote that you said on a podcast, you're taking little snippets of things you've already done and you're posting them out there, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you're posting. So even if you don't hang out on that platform or scroll on that platform, if you have content out there and someone looks you up, that is a measure of legitimacy for your business. It's like, oh, okay, you exist. I found your website and your Instagram. Okay, so now I'm comfortable emailing you. Isn't that interesting how business has changed?
Yes, totally, totally changed. Miss Virginia, and what role does consistency play in using a podcast to build trust and attract clients?
Yes, absolutely. So, podcasting, just the use of audio, whether or not you're doing video as well. If you think about it, when someone is listening to a podcast, they typically have earbuds in and they are not talking to anyone else. They are not listening to anyone else. They probably aren't watching anything else because they're tuned in and they're listening specifically to you. Sometimes, even with video, they might be cooking or folding laundry, but they aren't watching the TV and YouTube. They're watching one thing. So it is a one on one experience that these listeners or viewers are having with you. And when we have those one on one experiences with audio or with video, that is a massive trust building exercise. And when we can reliably tune in to hear someone that we are developing trust and we're developing a relationship, and we can tune into that every single week really consistently over time, those listeners, they think you know everything about them because they know everything about you. It is this very interesting dynamic relationship that can be one-sided, but when they hear you or see you week after week, day after day, let's just say, every time they're folding laundry they turn on your podcast, they feel like they have a relationship with you, they feel like they know you, and that develops trust. So y- you cannot expect to create 10 episodes and get clients, right? They're
Yes.
looking for that long term reliability and trust. And so when you show up time and time again, like my client's story, his plan was for 3 years. He's still going. But it showed that that consistency paid off just after 1 year of consistent production.
Miss Virginia, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Law 101, and mental health 101 Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Virginia, if someone wants to start a podcast purely to attract clients, what's the first step they should take?
I think the first step is to sit down and do a brainstorm session. This will help you build out the vision for your show and your first several episodes. So, when you think about anytime you're talking to someone about your business or about your services, what questions do they ask you? What questions are you answering over and over and over and over again as you're trying to bring on that client? Write those down. Think about what your answers are. Typically, it's going to be almost the same answer, maybe just tweaked a little bit based on that person's situation. But you're going to arrive at, your top 10 questions and answers very quickly. So, with that content, you can create your first, let's say, 10 episodes. And if not 10, at least three. That will get you started. And then you can start to think about, okay, who would be a good guest? How do I get guesting? There's multiple steps after that, but creating that initial top 10 frequently asked question and answer list will really get you started with the content creation process. And then, since you have my website up, go to the resources section at the top, and there is a freebie up there that will help create um, the messaging there. Just do the drop down if you don't mind. Let's see. The
Resources,
yeah.
podcasts,
Hang on right there. If you look at the script starter kit, that
script.
right there at the top, that
Okay.
will help you with that content creation process and guide you through those first few questions, answers, and help you start building out your content. And that is a
Definitely.
free download as well.
Free download, people. Yes, Miss Virginia Elder. Thank you so much for empowering us. Thank you so much for sharing your talents and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Mhm. Thank you for having me. Yes, podcastabundance.com. And I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Virginia Elder because if you support her, for sure, more and more and more empowering podcasts to come, more and more empowering business to come. So, Miss Virginia, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.